Hello and welcome. I'm joined by Kumar Iyer, the Deputy High Commissioner from Britain to India. We're sitting at the Mumbai Consulate of the British High Commission. Kumar, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
So, you've been doing a lot of interesting things before you came here. So, tell us about that for a few moments, and then I'm going to ask you about what you're going to be doing here in India.
Sure, of course. Well, I think the main thing probably to say about me is whilst I'm a diplomat here, and I will be for the next 4 years, I've never really been a diplomat before.
Right.
I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing. My background is mostly commercial, but it's in financial services, but it's been across the public sector, the private sector, and academia. So I've done jobs like overseeing the Royal Bank of Scotland and Lloyds on behalf of the taxpayer. I worked for the Boston Consulting Group for a number of years, advising financial services companies, and a long time ago I taught financial services out in America for a while as well.
Right.
So the thread that brings that through to this job is essentially an understanding of commerce, of financial services, of cross-border investment and trade, and that's the expertise that I'm hoping to bring to this job.
And how do you see the task ahead now that you're here and in the context of the environment that we're in?
Well, in some ways, I'm quite lucky. We start from a good basis. The UK is, once you've accounted for the capital flows from Mauritius and Singapore, the UK is the single largest investor in India, and likewise, India invests more in the UK than it invests in the whole of the rest of the European Union combined. So there's a good basis and platform on which to build from. But as ever, the challenge is to do more. It's to do more for SMEs, and actually the UK-India Business Council and the business centre that they're setting up in Gurgaon is a big part of that. They're going to be opening more such centres across India to help UK SMEs come and trade here. But also we need to do more for larger corporates, engaging with government, helping to move deals forward. I think if you talk to whether it's George Osborne at the Treasury or the Prime Minister, they would all say they want us to do a lot more with India.
Right. So you talked about small and medium enterprises.
Yeah.
So is that a relatively new area of focus, or is that something that's been there for a while?
Not at all. UKTI in particular UK Trade and Investment has always had a big service offering to UK SMEs. And SMEs are extremely important. They form the majority of all employment in the UK. Most investment and most innovation takes place within SMEs.
Right.
They're essential for the UK economy, but also for them to have an impact, you need lots of them. It's good to have lots of them. So the challenge for us is how do we build scale in order to serve as many as possible.
So within the financial sector, and that's where your personal expertise lies as well, what are the kind of specific areas and challenges that you see ahead?
Within financial services, I think financial services has had a tough time recently. I've seen the financial crisis both from my time at Number 10, watching it happen and unfold, through to more recently at the Treasury, trying to help shore up the banks that were bailed out. But I think the outlook is good. I think the UK has been at the forefront of some of the regulatory improvements, whether it's the Vickers Review, ring fencing of retail banking, the Independent Commission on Banking that recently reported. There's been a number of changes that the UK has been right at the forefront of putting through, and I think the financial system, both in the UK and globally, is looking really good. And when you think of financial services, people always think of London, but actually people should also think about Edinburgh. They should think about Manchester and Leeds. There are some fantastic companies in all of those spaces. The thing also to say with financial services is not to think of it on its own.
Right.
It needs to be the legal services that support it, the accounting and auditing services that support that, and the advisory services that also are very important in the mix.
So I'll come to the India-UK corridor in a bit, but if you were to look back at all that's happened in the financial services world, leading to the bailouts and the monitoring of those banks as you were doing, what would you say are the one or two key takeaways for banks today?
Well, I think the things to take away are for banks and regulators together. And the challenge that they will always have is to strike the right balance between risk and reward. How much capital should they retain? How much lending should they advance? And who should they extend it to? And I think the big lesson that banks have learnt, along with regulators, is when something is making very large returns over a very short period, and the products themselves are not very widely understood, then that's probably a cause to stop to think for a little bit and then to carry on.
Okay.
And in particular, I think the other lesson that banks have learnt is not to mix up all types of banking activities in terms of how they're structured, and to keep some of the, sometimes in the UK it's been called the casino banking, but really what people mean is some of the investment banking and trading activities separate from that of commercial and retail banking, which involves people like you and me putting their deposits in banks, and that's where ring fencing, which the UK has led the way on, is I think particularly important.
Right. Now, some of the British banks who are in India have been wanting to increase their exposure, increase their investment, or invest in other banks. Now, the regulatory regime is currently restrained on that. How do you see this?
Sorry, in which?
Some British, there are many British banks. Let's take the case of HSBC.
Yep.
Would like to ideally expand its footprint in India,
Yep.
increase or take a stake in other Indian private banks, and thus grow its business. And many others would want to do the same, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But that is not easy today, and the regulatory regime
Yes.
is pretty
Yep.
strict.
No, understood. Understood the question. Sorry. I think there are definitely barriers that prevent UK financial services companies expanding in India, whether that's the cap on FDI in insurance, for example, or priority sector lending in banking, or the limits on the number of bank branches that banks can open in any given year. I think one of the things we would like to do is to continue to work with the Indian government to see how we can work through some of those issues. For example, on priority sector lending, I think what the Indian government is doing there is completely understandable. Financial inclusion is an extremely important issue, and it is right that all banks contribute to that agenda. But we would be keen to continue to talk to them about what the best way of achieving that end goal is.
Right.
And I think those are the discussions that are ongoing and that banks continue to have with their regulators.
Right. So on the corridor again. So what are your sort of 2 or 3 key priorities ahead in the next year or so?
The first one I think is the one I mentioned before, which
Right.
is trying to build scale.
Yeah.
How can we serve more companies and increase trade? The second one is almost a personal one, which is whilst I'm reasonably familiar with India, I lived here a long time ago, I still need to get to know the country a lot better. The skyline was very different when I was in Mumbai the last time, so that's sort of a second and a personal challenge. I think the third challenge is to find a bit of rhythm, to find a conveyor belt of success stories that we can talk about, that we can showcase, and to get businesses to support other businesses. I'm very conscious of having worked both in the private sector and the public sector. I'm fully aware of the limits of both. And for me, what I really see as a goal and a prize is to try and make the most of the relative strengths of those sectors. So where private sector firms are best placed to help private sector companies, they should do so. Where government is best placed to assist them, then government should step in. The more we can get everyone to sort of focus on their relative strengths, we might be able to do more than otherwise.
Right. Last question. So what's the one fun thing that you've done in the short period that you've been here?
The one fun thing, I think I've done lots.
Many fun things.
Lots of fun things. I think one of the fun and unexpectedly fun things I did was riding on the back of a scooter in the middle of the pouring rain in Pune.
Okay. That sounds like fun.
And it was slightly scary. I won't, but it was also a lot of fun. And Pune, as you know, is built for bikes essentially,
Yes.
and everyone's scampering around on their scooters. And when I set off on my 30-minute journey, there was no rain at all. And 5 minutes in, the heavens opened up. It was pouring down with rain, and I was very wet when I got to my destination.
Right, Kumar. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.